Hi, welcome to Ash & Co Workshops. My name's John T and you have come across our Learn to Saw video. We're going to learn to saw today using this wonderful little Irwin Jack saw. So let's get started. The beauty of learning to saw is that once you've learned one saw, you've kind of learned them all. There's some real tricks to sawing, and in your kit you've got your saw and you've got all the other bits. We'll get all those together, but what you really need is somewhere good to saw. So you need a bench to work at, or something you can kneel on to saw. So I'm going to set myself up, and then you set yourself up the same way so you can follow along. So before we start sawing, the first thing is we want to saw to a line. So get yourself a pencil and draw a line across the piece of wood, on the flat bit of wood, and across the bottom part here. So a really good tool for this is the 3D printed saw guide in your kit. So I'm just going to draw across there, and then tip the wood up, and then make sure that's lined up and nice and flat, and draw across there like that. So you see I've got a nice line to work to. Now I want you to do a few of these lines because we're going to be practicing sawing. So I'm going to draw a few of those, about 5mm apart. And can you see clearly there what I'm doing? Hopefully you can. Let's do a couple more on the end there, why not? Okay, lovely. So you see we've got some lines we can work to here, and we can practice sawing properly. So once you've drawn your lines, when you're setting up, you might think that a vise would be a great thing to saw in, but actually it's not so great because they're not usually right on the corner of a workbench. So if I put this wood in here like this, and I go to saw it, I'm going to hit the workbench. So I'm going to have it sticking out all the way over there, and that's no good because it's all flapping around. So really, this isn't an ideal place to do sawing. You can stick it in a vise like this and cut that way. Not good when you're learning though. So a really good start would be to get another block of wood out of your kit, one of these, and you could just screw this to whatever surface you're going to saw on, and then stick the bit of wood out at the end here, and we can saw in this location here. So if you don't have anything to saw on, I would suggest doing something like that. Now the other option we can use is a bench hook. And this is what a bench hook looks like. You can make one of these yourself really easy. It's just a block of wood here with a block of wood glued to the bottom and a block of wood glued to the top. You can put that into a vise like this, tighten it up, and then you can put your block of wood on here and saw like this. But actually, with a saw like this one, you have an issue because the handle, as it comes through, will hit the back over here. So if you're going to saw on a bench hook like this, you're better off using another type of saw called a tenon saw. So that's what a bench hook is, but we're not going to use that now. So I'm now going to screw this block of wood to my bench, ready to work. So you can see I've screwed this bit of wood here. This gives me something to work against. And I'm now going to put my block of wood over the edge of the bench here, ready for sawing. Right, so we're set up here. The next thing then is, how do we hold the saw? Now, we grip it with our dominant hand, left or right, but the key thing is your first finger sits in this little groove here. Now, people always forget this, but this is really, really important to remember to stick your finger out, because it helps keep your arm nice and straight all the way across here when you're actually sawing. So we grip onto it lightly, finger down the middle, okay? And then I'm going to take the cover of the saw off. Right then, when we are holding the saw with our finger down the side, what I want you to think about when you're sawing is that imagine that you had your hand like this. Now, I don't want you to do this, but imagine that you had your hand, and I said slide this over the top of your hand without cutting your hand. Now, I think you could probably, all of you do this, okay? Look really, really light. It's just touching my skin. Any deeper and I cut myself. Now that lightness of pressure, we're lifting the weight off the saw. And that is how you start off when you're sawing. Very, very light pressure. When we go over the wood, we're just trying to catch it as light as we possibly can. So we're not pushing the saw through the wood, we're trying to actively lift the saw off the wood to give it a chance to start making a groove. Right, let's move on to the next part. Okay then, to get the saw started, that's what we're going to do next. We're going to use this little guide here. In a minute we'll do it without the guide, but let's start by using the guide. So I'm going to put this onto the wood, and then the saw is going to go up against it like this to give us something to work from to start with, okay? Right, so I'm just going to line up my guide like this with the line, and then I want to grip everything nice and tight with this hand here. And then we're going to start the saw tipped forwards, so make sure I've got the right angle, tipped forward like this, and up against the guide. Now the reason I've got this angle is because what we don't want here is a little gap like this, because it means your saw won't be straight. You want it up against the guide, nice and flat. And then once we've got it there, we're going to really gently just go back and forwards. Can you hear I'm just catching the wood? Just a really, really tiny amount. And I want you to see now, can you see the groove that I've got in this piece of wood? Just right here. You can see that? Okay, that's the smallest possible groove. So I'm now going to put my saw back in that groove and just slide this back up. And what we're going to do is just really gently make that groove a bit deeper. Okay, I would say that's a nice groove for us to work to. Setting your body up is a really important part about sawing. Once you've got your start, your little groove, next we need to make sure that we've lined up the saw, your wrist and your elbow in a straight line. If you don't do that, you'll find that you're sawing at funny angles, okay? So make sure that you've lined your body up before you start your proper cutting. So I've got everything here as lined up as I can, but notice now my head is over to the left. Now when your head's looking at this angle here, I can't see whether or not I'm cutting straight. So I need to get my right eye directly over the back of the top of this blade here, so that I can see whether the saw is straight or not in this direction. So I'm going to line up my saw, and I'm going to move my head over, and just focus on my head for a moment. Just going to move my head over like this, so that I can see everything's lined up. Check my body straight. Do you see I have to like bend my head over at a funny angle like this? This is the best way to do it. Now with my right eye, I can't see this side of the saw plate or this side, because I'm looking right down the back of it. And that's exactly where you want to be. Okay, now once you've done that, we're going to do nice, smooth strokes, back and forwards like this, keeping it against the guide. Now, once we get into the saw cut properly, we want to use the whole length of the saw. So I want long strokes, please, all the way forwards, all the way back, like this. And we don't need to push hard at all. We're going to let the saw do the cutting for us. We're just going to pull back and forwards and be patient. Okay, let's keep that going. Notice how there's no gap. I'm keeping it nice and straight. Everything lined up. Okay, brilliant. And that's it. We made the cut. Really, really good job. And you can see the end of this cut here. You can see nice and straight, just what we wanted. Now, if you're not getting it straight, check after every cut. You can practice and practice until you start getting it straighter. For the next bit, we're going to learn how to do it just using our thumb as a guide. Okay then, for our next pass, what I'm going to do now is use my thumbnail here to guide the saw blade. Now, when we're just starting a cut, I'm going to go right here. Can you see I've just gone next to the line there? And I'm going to use my thumbnail to stop the saw from wandering around like this. So I need to push the saw just a little bit into my thumbnail. Not hard, you don't want to bend it like this, just a tiny bit. And we have to be very careful here. So super, super light pressure on the saw and get a little groove going. So just like this. Super light, super light, super light, super light. Okay, now look at that, I've got my groove. Once I've got my groove, get this thumb out of the way. Now that I've got my little groove, you can see here, I've got my thumb out of the way. Going to line up my body just as we did before, and then start doing longer strokes. So light pressure, remember, light pressure, all the way forward, backwards. Okay, now you see here now, I've got so much sawdust going on, I can't see what's going on. So just wipe that away, and then go back in. Okay, now you see, look, I've got that groove all the way across the bit of wood. Yep. So now I've got my groove, it's nice and straight. I can tell, because I can still see the line right next to it. So that is the first step. Once you've got that bit nice and straight, now all I have to think about is it straight in the downwards direction, so this way or this way. And if I set my right eye up over the top of the blade and follow the line I've drawn down the front, I can keep an eye on that as I go through the cut. So we'll keep going through the cut, nice and soft, straight. Okay, we can see here now I'm following this line down the front here, and I can tell that I'm doing really well here. I'm going pretty straight. If I were accidentally coming slightly away from the line, I can apply a small amount of twist to bring the saw back in. So if I put my saw back in here, and say I was coming off to the right, I can very slightly twist my saw just like that, and it will come back onto the line. But you're better off learning just to get it straight first time. So as we go through, all the way through the bottom here, just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. And there we go, sawn all the way through. Okay, I'm going to take you through that process by putting my thumb right at the front here, lining my saw blade up, pushing slightly this way with the saw, and get my groove going. Okay, you can see I've got a groove. As soon as you get a groove, this thumb out the way, get it out the way. Line my body up just like I showed you before, and then go for it. Okay, now I've sawn all the way across here. You can see I've got my groove all the way across. Now I'm paying all my attention now to is the saw square going downwards, focusing on this line right at the very front here. Okay then, let's carry on. And see how I'm using the whole saw. Okay, and that's it. The wood's come away. Now you see the end, the back here can break out sometimes. That's because the wood is unsupported under here, and that's often why we saw on a bench hook, so that the wood is supported and doesn't break out. If you're cutting off a bigger bit though, you can reach over and just hold that bit as you saw it off, so that it supports the wood and stops it from breaking out. There's only one thing for it from here, and that is to get a block of wood, draw 50 lines on it, and try your best to saw dead straight. Remember the things that matter. Safe and secure work holding really matters. Lining your body up so that your body is straight and that your right eye is right over the back of the saw blade. Super important. If you're still struggling after doing all of that, please get in touch with us. We'll help you out. We'll help you get over that initial hurdle of learning how to saw. So I really hope this is useful. Now, once you've done all of that, you can basically saw with any type of saw. There are all sorts of different saws that I don't want to get into in this video, but get on YouTube, check out different types of saws on there. There's so much information there if you want to learn more about saws. I hope you had fun watching this video. Good luck with your sawing, and if you want to send me a picture of one of your offcuts to show how close to the line you got, I literally love seeing those. It makes my day. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care.